Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I will be reading the chapter 12, which is the last chapter of Emperor's Ring. Your ring? I could tell that Feluda was quite taken aback by the question. Bono Bihari Babu did not reply. He only stared at Feluda, the pipe hanging from one corner of his mouth, a little smile on his lips. The crickets outside were silent. Besides, Veluda continued, what makes you think I have got it? Bono Bihari Babu spoke this time. I had my suspicions throughout. I knew it couldn't have been stolen by an outsider. No one could have simply walked into the house and taken something from Dhiru Babu's bedroom without anyone having seen or heard anything. I found that impossible to believe. But although I suspected you, I didn't have any evidence to prove my theory. Now I do. And what evidence is that? Silently, Bono Bihari Babu picked up his tape recorder and, placing it once more on his lap, switched it on. It froze my blood to hear what I did. It was the ring, wasn't it? Spoke my own voice from the machine. Since you had guessed it already, there is no point in hiding things from you. Bono Bihari Babu turned the machine off with a click. I had left it under your bed last night before you returned to your room, he said. I couldn't, of course, be sure that you would indeed talk about the ring. But since you did, I couldn't miss such an opportunity to get what I wanted. What better evidence would you need, huh, Philu Babu? But how can you claim that the ring is yours? Bono Bihari Babu put the recorder on the table, crossed his legs, and leaned back in his chair. In 1948, he said, that is exactly 18 years ago, I bought the ring from the Naulaka company in Calcutta. It cost me 200,000 rupees. I got to know Pyarelal soon after this. He didn't tell me he was interested in antiques, but I did show him the ring. The look on his face on seeing it made me instantly wary. 2 days later, it disappeared from my house. The police were informed, but they couldn't catch the thief. Then I came to Lucknow, and so did Pyarelal. I learned that he had the ring all these years only when Srivastava showed it to me. I don't suppose Pyarelal thought he would survive his first heart attack, so he got rid of what he had stolen many years ago. But then he recovered, and I went to see him. What I had thought was that if he admitted to the theft, I could perhaps get the ring back from Srivastava. I am sure he would have agreed, and I was even prepared to offer him some compensation. But do you know what happened? Pyarelal simply denied the whole thing. In fact, he went so far as to say he had never seen the ring in my house in Calcutta. Feluda broke in at this point, not a trace of fear in his voice. I would like to ask you something, Bono Bihari Babu, and I hope you will give me an answer. No, you tell me first if you have got the ring with you now, or have you left it somewhere? I want to recover myself what is my own. Oh, said Feluda, speaking with undisguised scorn. How come then you didn't hesitate to get other people to steal the ring for you, or even have me followed and threatened? That henchman of yours, Ganesh Guha, isn't it, is dressed like a Sikh taxi driver today. I believe he was the fake sannyasi, wasn't he? You got him to break into Srivastava's house and follow his car the next day. But then he was told to keep an eye on me, throwing stones at me at the residency, trying to chloroform both of us. showering threats on me. All these were his doings, weren't they? Bono Bihari Babu smiled. One cannot possibly do every little thing oneself, can one? An assistant can be very useful. You know, besides, Ganesh is strong and healthy and has spent years handling wild animals. So I knew he'd be good at this reckless game. And I have to say this, if he has done anything wrong, it is only because I had asked him to. What you have done, Babu, is far worse. You are hanging on to something that doesn't belong to you. It is mine. I tell you, and I want it back. Today, now. He practically shouted the last few words. I was still trying hard to stay calm, but my hands began to feel clammy. Feluda's voice sounded cold as steel when he spoke. What use will that ring be to you, Bono Bihari Babu, when you are charged with murder? Bono Bihari Babu rose from his chair, trembling with rage. What? What impudence! You don't know what you're saying. How dare you? I dare, because I believe I see a murder before me. Now, will you tell me a bit more about the spy Pyarelal had mentioned? You appear to know something about it. Bono Bihari Babu smiled dryly and said, There is nothing to explain. It's all quite simple. I had set a few men to follow him around to find out more about the ring. I'm sure that's what he meant. And what if I tell you the word spy had nothing to do with your secret service? What do you mean? You went to visit Pyarelal the morning when he had his second attack, didn't you? You saw him before the attack came on. So what? Are you implying that the very sight of me would give him a cardiac arrest? I had visited him often enough, even before that particular day. Yes, but that day you were not empty handed. Empty handed? What are you getting at? You were armed with a box. In the box was an inmate of your zoo, that huge, poisonous African spider, the Black Widow. Isn't that right? What Pyarelal had tried to say was spider, but he couldn't complete the word, so a spider became a spy. Bono Bihari Babu suddenly went pale. He sat down again. But but what could I have gained from showing him the spider? He asked. But you were probably unaware that the sight of a cockroach gave him palpitations. Your intention was probably just to frighten him into handing the ring over to you. But the whole thing took a nasty turn, didn't it? Pyarilal's fright caused a heart attack, leading to his death. Now, who is responsible for it but you? And you sit there and tell me you had bought that ring in Calcutta. What if I tell you it was Pyarelal who had shown it to you 18 years ago, and ever since you had wanted to get hold of it? In that room in your house, which you said you always kept locked, there are many more old and valuable objects stashed away. And the purpose of the zoo is to ward off burglars and robbers. Would you deny any of this? May I? Bono Bihari Babu said gravely. Ask you what else you happen to believe? Yes, you certainly may, Feluda replied, equally gravely. It is my belief that you will never again lay your eyes on the Emperor's ring, and your future will bring you your just deserts. Ganesh, Bono Bihari Babu's shout rang through the air like a gunshot. Ganesh Guha entered the room, carrying the packing crate. Bono Bihari Babu collected his tape recorder and began backing out of the room. Cover your face, Feluda told me. I did not stop to question why, and I did as I was told, using the handkerchief I had been given. Feluda took out another handkerchief from his pocket and with it the little tin of tooth powder. Ganesh Guha by this time had placed the crate on the floor and lifted its lid. Just as he was about to retrace his steps, Feluda opened the tin in his hand and threw a handful of powder at both Ganesh Guha and Bono Bihari Babu. Then he quickly covered his own face. Through my handkerchief, I got the faint smell of a familiar object black pepper. It is difficult to describe the effect it had on the other two. Their faces were distorted with pain, which was followed by incessant sneezing, screams of agony. Bono Bihari Babu stumbled out of the room, rolled down the stairs, and landed on the ground outside. Ganesh Guha didn't fare any better, but he managed to pull the door shut behind him, therefore blocking our own escape. Now my eyes went to open the crate on the floor. A snake was slowly raising its head from it, making the same terrifying noise I had heard before. Krr, 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 krr. I began to feel strangely lightheaded. Unable to move my limbs, I could only feel Feluda help me stand up on the bench before climbing on it himself. I realized, for the first time, what terror could do to one. My eyes refused to move from the snake. Or it could be that the snake really did have the power to hypnotize. Before my petrified eyes, it slid out of the box, shook its rattle, and seemed to glance around. Then it fixed its gaze on us and began to move steadily towards our bench, wriggling sideways on the door, making a constant rattling noise. I appeared to be its immediate target. I could feel my vision getting blurred. The snake was coming closer, and all I could do was stand there, rooted to the spot. Then, when it was only about a couple of yards away, I suddenly felt as though the house we were in was struck by lightning. There was a loud explosion, a flash of light, and a smell of gunpowder. And the snake? The head of the snake was crushed and severed from its body. The rattle shook a couple of times and was still. At this point, I passed into oblivion. I regained consciousness to find myself lying on a blanket under a tree. My head and forehead felt cold and damp. Clearly, someone had sprinkled water on me. My eyes slowly focused first on Dr. Srivastava and then on Baba. How do you feel, Tapesh Babu? Said a vaguely familiar voice. Startled, I turned my head and saw Mahabir. But why was he wearing saffron clothes? I traveled with you up to Bareilly, Mahabir grinned, and yet you didn't recognize me. He must be a talented actor, and he was wearing excellent makeup. In a long, flowing beard, he had truly been unrecognizable. Besides, he had changed both his voice and speech. Now, you have seen how good my aim is. Actually, I began to feel doubtful about Bono Bihari Babu the day we met at the Bulbulaya, and he denied ever having seen me before. The truth was that he had often visited our house in Calcutta and spoken to me a number of times. Once, he and my father had a row over that ring. I recalled that event only a few days ago. When we couldn't spot your car, Baba added, we reversed ours and followed the tire marks into the jungle. But it was Mahabir's idea. And what happened to those two? They have been adequately punished. Felu's powdered thunder had the most remarkable effect on both. Now they are being looked after by the police. Police? How did the police get involved? Why? They came with us. Bilaj Babu is actually Inspector Gargari, you see. How very strange. Who would have thought that the palmist was really a police inspector? I had no idea the mystery of the Emperor's ring would end like this. But where is Feluda? A light flashed in my eyes again, but there was no loud noise this time. I saw Feluda standing at some distance, wearing the ring on his finger. He was turning it around in the sunlight that seeped through the leaves and reflecting the light straight into my eyes. I thought quietly to myself, if anyone had emerged a winner in this whole business, truly like an emperor, it was none other than Feluda. And that is the end of the story Emperor's Ring. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you all in the next video.